Now we're going to try and do an example of what Boyle used to figure out his law. And he did his experiment with a J tube. So a J tube is simply a tube of glass bent into a J. You've got a sealed end on the one end here. That's sealed, and it's open on the top. This guy is open here. And it says some air gets trapped between the mercury and the sealed end. Today the atmospheric pressure is 1.05. So there's 1.05 ATMs of air just going down into the tube at all times. And first thing I'm going to do is pour in some mercury into the open end of the tube. And after that's done, it looks like some air gets trapped over here. This is trapped air. And this is the mercury. And we know that the difference between these heights is 15 centimeters. Then I added more mercury. That, of course, squishes the air a little bit, so I now have a different volume up here. The height difference between the mercury levels is 19.2, and now we want to figure out what is the volume in the new tube. Well, from Boyle's law, we know that pressure times volume equals a new pressure times a new volume. The thing we have to be aware of or concerned with is we really have two pressures. Not only do I have the pressure difference because of this height, I also have the air pushing down. So really, the original pressure is the sum of those two causing this volume of air in the tube. So I need to add those two pressures together. Well, we can't add centimeters to atmospheres, so we need to convert. I know that 1 centimeter has 10 millimeters into it, so this is really 150 millimeters difference. 1.05 atmospheres, I know that 1 atmosphere is the same thing as 760 millimeters of mercury. So really, today, the atmospheric pressure is 1.05 times 760, or 798 millimeters of mercury. So this is the atmospheric pressure to start with. My total pressure for the first part of the experiment would be atmospheric pressure plus the difference in height because of the mercury. So when you add those together, you get 948 millimeters of mercury. And that caused a volume of 54 milliliters. We then added more mercury. Air pressure doesn't change, it's still 798, but now the difference in height is right here, which is 192 millimeters. When you add the 192 to the 798, you get 990 millimeters of mercury for the new pressure, and that will cause some new volume. Simply divide both sides by 990 millimeters of mercury. You can notice these cancel out. Millimeters of mercury cancel out. And when you take your 948 times 54 divided by 990, you end up with 51.7 milliliters for the new volume. And if you compare that to the original volume over here, 54, that makes a little bit of sense, because when you increase the pressure, which we did by adding more mercury here, it decreases the volume. Went from 54 down to 51.7.